Oh, welcome to another episode of Ascension with A Course in Miracles. And today is October the 11th, 2023. We are at a fascinating time in this ascension process. Today, I actually put up the chart of the map of consciousness, which is right out of the book, Power versus Force. I'm sure I have it here handy. Power versus Force by Dr. David Hawkins. And this book comes in a couple different colors. So don't let the color make you think that you don't have it on your shelves. Because if you have been a student of truth for a while, you probably have read Power versus Force, because Dr. David Hawkins has been a very, very important piece of the puzzle for the ascension process. Every single one of us incarnates to bring a piece of the puzzle. That's why every being on this planet is important. And just as in a painting, you could take, I put together puzzles with my kids for years. I'm sure you probably have put puzzles together. But oftentimes the puzzles I would say probably every single puzzle that is out there starts off as a full picture. And then they run that through whatever machine cuts it into the different pieces. It could be a 1,000 pieces, 500 pieces, 100 pieces. And of course, for the little ones, they are, maybe 12 pieces, like I do with my little grandson. So the picture that he sees in a puzzle piece is bigger. So it's easier for him to put the whole puzzle together. But for those of us who like a challenge, who like to really work a little harder at putting the puzzle together, well, we go for the 1,000-piece puzzle or 2,000-piece puzzle. And in humanity, we have an 8 billion piece puzzle. And not only that, I say 8 billion, but it's really way more than that. It's maybe 10, 15, 20 billion or 30 billion or 50 billion if you count all beings that have incarnated into humanity. My little doggie is playing with a toy. So I don't know if you heard that little squeak, but she found that toy, so she may be squeaking. We may hear a little squeaking more because she's a piece of the puzzle too. And as we begin to really understand what is happening in the world, I hear it. I don't know if you do. But anyways, as we begin to see the whole picture, we have to take into account lots of little pieces of the puzzle of teachers who have walked on this planet before us, who brought to us a bit of information to help us put together the whole vision. Dr. David Hawkins brought to us this incredible map of consciousness, which details how we drop in frequency. Of course, this is my interpretation, not only of Dr. David Hawkins, but also I took the work of Abraham Hicks, and it's channelings that come through a woman by the name of Esther Hicks, and she gave us the map. He gave us a map of consciousness. She has given us the scale of emotions. So I take emotions, which Dr. David Hawkins uses too, and I have laid them out in the order that we must move through them in order to ascend out of being emotional people who are run by our emotions. Because humanity is a conglomeration of beings who have emotions. We have energy that should be in motion, but through the conditioning that we have been receiving, in order to descend into a small idea of who we think we are, which is basically to allow the ego to be fully what the ego is all about, our energy cannot be in motion, because when our energy is in motion, we are fully self-expressed. But when our energy is not in motion and it is suppressed, we are easily manipulated, easily controlled, to the point that we lose ourselves and think that we're just a tiny, insignificant being. But we're not. None of us is tiny and insignificant. All of us are powerful, magnificent, significant, because each and every one of us is an aspect of God, is an aspect of Creator. We are every one of us is here to extend, to express the all that isness that God is, source, spirit, you can call it whatever you want. Anybody who can call a God is clearly comfortable with any word, because words do not have power. But at whatever level of consciousness we're at in our understanding of God, of, who God is, what God is, we are going to be totally and completely in a specific level that makes us not like the word God, fear the word God, be indifferent about the word God. So if you're afraid of God, you are operating at the lower levels of consciousness, because in fear of God, in fear of even saying the word God, then we are not, words have meaning. We've given words power. But the more that we work through our understanding about God, use that scale that has been given to us, the more that we get comfortable with that the word God itself has zero power, the more, let me try and, Jody, if we can mute you, if you don't mind muting yourself, because I can't mute, there we go. The more that you look at your relationship with the word God, the more that we begin to really recognize that we are in a place of understanding that we are not, a word shouldn't have power over us. So what is going on with us that has us be in that space? Guys, give me a quick little second. I've got a client that I coach later on, and let me see. She thinks we're talking now, but it's incorrect time. Let's see. Our normal time is okay. There we go. Anyways, we are in a wonderful time right now where humanity, in order to wake up, we've got to gather pieces of the puzzle and put them together. However, today is not the day that we're going to see the big picture. Today is the day that humanity is getting more pieces of the puzzle, bringing them into alignment so that we can see what's really going on. And to see what's really going on, we must feel what's happening inside of us, because to the level that our emotions are suppressed, meaning that we're balled up into a small idea of who we are, to that degree of awareness is to the degree that to which we are operating in understanding of the bigger picture. If you're here, you can't see the big picture. If you're here, you got an inkling that there's possibly a big picture. If you're here, you realize, oh my gosh, there are more pieces to the puzzle. If you're here, you see, wow, I had no idea this was happening. If you're here, now you get what I mean. So the further up the mountain we go, or the further up on an airplane that we go, the more that we begin to see what's really happening. And in A Course in Miracles, one of the wonderful opportunities that we have right now is to begin to understand how the mind got contracted. That's really, to me, one of the beautiful things about A Course in Miracles. It's an opportunity for us to be able to recognize how much or how little do we understand about the nature of humanity. Do we really get what the big picture is or not? Well, I'm going to say that most of us have no clue about the big picture when we are being raised and conditioned into thinking that we're just a human, because our parents didn't know the big picture. Their parents didn't know the big picture. We would have to go back tens of thousands of years to see the big picture. The beings that first incarnated and knew the big picture and knew that this was a planet that is an opportunity for us to express the divinity, the love of God. In the beginning was the word of God, was the knowledge of God, was the understanding of what God is, of what love is, of what eternity is. In the beginning, all of those things were present. But since the beginning, because this is the beginning, we all begin from the connection to source, being one with that in non-physical consciousness. In non-physicality, we know that we are one with the Creator. And little by little, by little, by little, humanity over thousands and thousands of years has been conditioned away and away and away and away from the truth, deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into the lie. Course in Miracles shows us the lie that the ego has made, shows us what God is, so that we can have two perspectives instead of one. When I was totally, completely unconscious, I had no idea there was a bigger picture. All I knew is what I had been taught. And I was like everybody else, conditioned through the schooling system, conditioned to become a producer, conditioned to become one who basically my whole life was about what I was going to be, do, and have. And my entire life was set up to acquire, to accumulate, to become, always chasing, never catching. Yeah, sure, you get the job and then you're there, and 3 months, 3 years, 30 years later is like, is this all there is? And of course, the disappointments happen faster now because we're being assisted, energetically assisted, to pop out of the illusion of separation. So the more that we get into a place of curiosity, which is why nobody gets out of this insanity without curiosity. We must enter the realm of asking the question, is this all there is? Could there be more? And as we get curious, well, every single one of you, so good to see you here, Jen. Every single one of you has been on a journey, and different books, different teachers, things just fall into our laps out of nowhere, because the pieces of the puzzle are coming to us because we said, I want to see more pieces to the puzzle. I am curious to see what's happening. And as we look at what's taking place in the world today, we can look at it without the Course in Miracles and be scared and be angry and be depressed and feel guilt or shame or whatever emotions get activated. Or we can look at it with A Course in Miracles and see we've got two levels happening here. We've got what is God and we've got what is ego. They're very separate perspectives of looking at the world. If you're looking at the world from here, it's a very scary place. Oh my God, these things can hurt me, can affect me. If you're looking at what's happening in the world from here, you're seeing the insanity, but you're seeing as well that the pieces that need to be seen are coming forward, because we must bring the darkness to the light. Course in Miracles says that you do not bring the light into the darkness. You cannot see the whole mountain. If you take a lamp into a cave and you go into a dark space to try and understand the mountain, you can't do that. You've got to take apart the mountain while you're out in the light so that you can see it. And you can then walk around from the outside and see all parts of the mountain, see that there is a cave in there, see that there are all kinds of pieces and parts to it, but you can't study the mountain from inside the cave. So again, you must bring the darkness to the light, not the light into the darkness. So awareness, becoming aware. That's why I call my work the power. It's not Laina that made up the name. I was given the name of the power of awareness to call my work that. This is all to empower people to expand awareness. That was given to me when I didn't even understand what awareness was. But I just followed the guidance that I was given and just taught what I was told to teach, because that's the piece of the puzzle that I bring to the big picture. That's a contribution that God is making through this physical vessel known as Laina. is to help people become more self-aware, empower them with awareness, bringing awareness to the works of people like David Hawkins or the work of people like Abraham, combine whatever needs to be combined and take the pieces that are necessary to bring them together to help show a bridge out of the insanity that we're in. So as we look at what's happening in the world, if you are on a journey to ascension, you must practice radical honesty. Where are you looking at what's happening from? Are you looking at it from guilt, low frequency, total victimization? Are you looking at it with grief? You're a little higher frequency. Are you looking at it with fear? Even higher frequency. Are you looking at it with anger? Even higher frequency. See, humans have been taught to suppress their emotions. And until we get comfortable with whatever is arising and be with it, be present with it, acknowledge that it is there to bring information. If you're at a level of anger, angry people are going to do more than victimized, shameful people. Because when you're in shame and in victimization, you don't think you have anything to contribute. Actually, that's when we become the most selfish, because we retreat and pull away. But when you move to the levels of anger, anger is an important energy because it begins to tell us that, hey, something is not okay. I'm worthy of more. Humans are worthy of more. In anger, it depends on how you use anger. If the ego is the voice that you're listening to while you're in anger, your anger is going to do something that will become more destructive. If, on the other hand, you're listening to the voice for God, anger is going to become something that you will use to empower yourself with awareness. Why am I angry? What is happening here? Why do things that make me angry keep happening? Where is this coming from? You begin to give yourself permission to get curious about the genesis of why it is that you are angry. And humanity has to see that until we fully understand that anger is because we have been moved deliberately, consistently, we have been conditioned away from our true nature. We have been conditioned into believing that war is justified. You just go work and pay your taxes, and then we will handle over here who we're going to attack, who we're going to be upset with, and we'll keep you people safe over there. We have been conditioned into believing that that's okay, that some person somewhere makes a decision about who they're going to attack, and they're going to have us work to fund that. Absolute insanity. When you begin to rise up in consciousness, you begin to see, my goodness, what a crazy system this is. But today, as we look through A Course in Miracles, and of course, we've been in chapter 30, which is called The New Beginning. It's in the text of A Course in Miracles. I'll give you a quick little glimpse at my book over here. Chapter 30 of 31. There's only 31 chapters in the text of A Course in Miracles. Of course, there are the 365 lessons. But in the text, we are in chapter 30. So there's only one more to go. And this one I picked, it came to me randomly a few months ago, because we don't move through this fast. Taken to this chapter, The New Beginning, because humanity is at the precipice for a new beginning. But to have a new beginning, we have to experience the end of the old. A new beginning implies something new other than what has been happening. So the old is the darkness that is coming because we have enough light on the planet now to see it. So the previous section that we were in was a section about beyond idols. We spent a lot of time looking at the Course's teachings, stating that we have projected idols. We have decided that authority is outside of us. Course in Miracles teaches that we have only one problem, and that problem has one solution. The problem is the authority problem. We have given power to others to be authorities over us. We have the authority in government. that tells us the laws and rules and regulations that we should live by. We have the authorities as bosses who tell us when we clock in, when we leave, what we get paid. We have the authority in the medical world that tells us, you know, what we should eat, shouldn't eat, what we should put in our bodies, not put in our bodies, what schedule we should follow for specific shots that we give our children. We have authorities that tell us what level of quality our waters, our air, our land have. We call these the environmental protection agencies. We have given power to external sources to tell us what we can and cannot do, instead of going to the one authority, which is God. Because if we were connected with who we are, we wouldn't be so depressed and feeling so distant and feeling here all alone. We would be operating at the higher realms of awareness, which again, Dr. Hawkins breaks down for us in a ton of detail exactly what it is that is going on right here. So we have an opportunity. If you are feeling curious about what is happening in the world, I mean, there are too many places right now to see that are in disarray to really be able to grasp the big picture of the dismantling of the old. So we'll take the one that is most present today, and it's what's happening in Israel, what's happening with Israel and Palestine, and the stories that we have been told about what's taking place there. And what is taking place there is a microcosm of the macrocosm. Authority has been given to one group over another. This group has been made a victim. That group has been made the bully. When we allow ourselves to separate humanity into this side and that side, we are really showing that we are operating in the lower levels of consciousness. Because when we are at the lower, oh, Jen, of course, you're welcome. When we're operating at the lower levels of consciousness, we separate, we divide one another. To move to the higher levels of consciousness is to begin to recognize oneness, to begin to realize that all beings, whether they're on this side or that side, whether they're in you know, this color, the red team or the blue team, whether they are the white people or the black people, the female people or the male people, it does not matter. When we separate and divide and look at each other, we are contributing to what the ego does. One group has to be right, the other one has to be wrong. One group has to be more important than the other one. Then we are usually unconsciously participants in perpetuating the very divisive game that is of the ego. We then are listening to external authorities, because who tells us that this side is better than this side, that we should rally for this side but not that side? Well, that typically comes from the authority that we have created, the idol of the media. We have somebody who goes there, or they don't even have to go there. Somebody who watches what's there, interprets it for us, because we are not capable of interpreting it ourselves when we're conditioned to live in disempowerment. And then they tell us what to believe, what to think. Well, you can see why we have one problem, and it's the authority problem, is because we go outside of ourselves to seek for answers and solutions. When we understand that we are made in the image of a loving, creative, eternal, one creative source for all that is, of all that is, we need to then realize that everybody is made exactly the same, operating with either awareness that that's who they are, or lack of awareness that that's who they are. And if we enter into warring, it's because we don't remember who we are. If we are operating on the side of solutions, it's because we remember who we are, and we are ascending to a new level of understanding, a new level of awareness. We're putting pieces of the puzzle together to give us a broader, bigger picture. So we studied before about the dangers of creating external idols, and it tells us those idols are going to fall. We're at the time right now for a new beginning. The old way had idols outside of us, authorities outside of us. The new beginning has the authority within us. To come to the authority being within and feeling confident about the truth of who you are, This is not the arrogant pride that operates right here. We have to drop our pride in thinking, I know better. We have to move beyond the human egoic pride, ascend to the level of God's understanding. This is why Dr. Hawkins, in his chart, he has an entire section of God view. How does God see the world? How does God see everything? How do we see God? We have to go through a journey of moving through the process of relearning, unlearning in many cases of about what God is. Because when you enter a journey of awakening, you're never going to find God outside of you. As a matter of fact, that's why we're in the trouble that we're in, is because we've been conditioned that God was outside of us on a cloud somewhere. And or maybe somebody had God, but not you. So we've got to realize that this is a journey where we're coming back inside of ourselves. We're parenting ourselves back into a healthy state of mind, a healthy state of emotional awareness, and a complete understanding of what God is, creative source is. And again, if the name still has a charge for you, it's simply because you're still at a different level of consciousness that holds fear around God, holds something, maybe denial of God, denial that God has power. It's okay, because wherever we are on the journey, it's perfectly okay. We can't get this wrong, because we have eternity to return to the truth of who we are. And if somebody does not want to acknowledge that they and God are one today, it's okay. You can do it tomorrow or in 10 more lifetimes. There is absolutely no need to feel bad about where one is, because that would be the ego having you not be at peace with whatever it is that you're aware of, because a journey appears to be happening in time. Although Course in Miracles makes it very clear, while we are in this idea that we're separate from one another and separate from God, we are still contained inside the one mind, where we are absolutely safe. And a part of us knows the truth. Our higher self, our soul, knows the truth. Our conditioned mind does not. So we are just releasing training, conditioning, indoctrination, information that we have learned. We're just releasing it at whatever level we can release it at, until we get to the point that we've released enough that now our mind is no longer cluttered by misinformation, and we are accessing our true knowingness. That is the new beginning. Because when we get to the place that we have returned our mind and are no longer distracted by illusions that power is outside of us, we come back in humbleness, in gentleness, in honesty. We come back to the truth of who we are, and we realize that everybody wants the same thing. So the question, with yourself or with what's happening in the world, is, are you willing to see things from God's truth, from ultimate reality? We are one. Love is all there is. Joy is what we desire. Peace is our natural state. If we're not experiencing that, then are you willing to look at why you're blocking it, how you're blocking it? Because that's the only way we're going to return to true peace on earth. It's not to blame one side and accuse the other, and you did this to me, because that is of the ego that keeps us in justifying our attacks and defenses. To come to what do we really all deep down want inside, is to experience love, joy, and peace, and freedom to express it in any way that we want. I mean, our Constitution states it beautifully. We are all created equal, endowed with the same inalienable rights to life, liberty, and happiness. Life, you're eternal. Liberty, God created you free. You have free will. All of us do. Happiness, that is the result of living in love, joy, and peace. So why do we not have that? Because we take sides. We are going to be either on the attack or the defense. And we've been trained that way. That's how sports are played. That's how the game of life is played. You're either, in the offense or you're in the defense. You have to take a side, and you either win one time or, you get used to losing. And we don't need to experience that. That is absolutely unnecessary because that is the way of the ego. That is the way of the lie that we have participated in. And we must acknowledge that at a soul level, we chose to incarnate, and we knew we could be brought down into the level of consciousness that the humanity was at, called mass consciousness, the overall understanding from all of humanity. We are being invited to be open-minded so that we are willing to participate in the understanding that it is possible for all of us to reach the place where we really understand that we all want the same thing. So as we continue in this, the Course in Miracles, we are now in section number 4. So the section of the idols, we've already gone through that. Last week, we started section number 4. The title of it is The Truth Behind Illusions. We have to understand that our idea that we're separate is an illusion. It's not true. It's made up. It's just it's a magician's trick. And the ego is quite the magician, because it has tricked us into believing in separation, my side, your side. But the truth is that we are one. So if we want to resolve the outer conflict, we must first resolve the inner conflict. We must each come to the place that we know the truth about who we are, because then from that place, as we do the work, we move in confidence to stand for the truth that has been true always. And that truth that has been true always is that God is. And there's only one substance. Again, doesn't matter what you call it. That substance is consciousness, and it expresses in lots of different ways. Like when we look at a painting and we see the whole picture, that's what God is. And then we take the tools that cut the puzzle, and we have all the different pieces, and we have an experience as a piece of the puzzle, but all of it comes from the one. All of it is part of the one. That's the truth. We're all part of one. The illusion is I'm just my little piece, and my little piece needs to hang out with this other little piece, because we make up the red corner and you guys are in the blue corner. So we don't want to know about you because we're over here. We got to get past that small-mindedness, because it's quite immature thinking. It's the thinking of a child that has not grown up and matured into adulthood. Humanity is a small child that is still being childish. War is childish. There is no reason for humans to not be able to come together, have discussions where we are not hurting, maiming, abusing, raping, beheading, killing, burning other humans. There is no reason to do that. That should show to you, it does to me, the level of immaturity. And the Course in Miracles calls that a call for love. The people that are actually committing atrocities are so wounded inside. They are so hurt inside. They are coming from such a small-minded place inside. They are not happy with who they are, so they are projecting out onto the world that everybody else should be unhappy because they don't know who they are. This is why those who are moving through a process of ascension cannot look at people and call, oh, these are the villains that are really bad. We should hate on them. They deserve retaliation. They, more than any, deserve to be forgiven because they know not what they're doing. They are the least connected to the truth of who they are. Because if we take sides, guess what? We're going to bounce from one side to the other side to the other side. That is the pendulum that the ego keeps us on, so that we never come to a state of balance where we are at peace and know who we are. To come into balance is to stop participating in the story of separation, because this is when we can begin to become more objective, more open-minded, more tolerant about how humanity got to that place. Until we see how we got to believing that taking sides is okay, we are not going to solve the problem. We've got to bring the darkness to the light. We've got to see all the pieces that have been in hiding, that have been out of our awareness, that have perpetuated the stories of victimization that we need to stop buying into. Course in Miracles is not an easy teaching to accept all at once, because Course in Miracles says that there are no victims here. We are all expressions of God choosing to have different realities. And when we accept that, then we can begin the process of, with maturity, questioning, looking at how did we get here? Because I can assure you that if you do the digging that is necessary, nothing that is happening in the outer world that is not to our liking is created randomly. There is a participation that we have unwittingly, unknowingly, unconsciously been a part of that funds this lack of depravity. And that is the way that it happens is through our tax dollars and through our following whatever some, media head tells us to believe. And when we give them our energy and say, I'm on this side against that side, we are feeding the machine that continues to perpetuate the divisiveness that we are needing to wake up from. So the truth behind illusions, last time we talked about, you will attack what does not satisfy, and thus you will not see that you made it up. And of course, when we come to teachings like this, if we haven't been aware of what the training is up until now, the previous 29 chapters, which are very, very detailed about how the mind got divided, then a statement like this, if you're new to watching this video, if you've never watched my work before, you probably go, what the hell are you talking about? What do you mean that there are no victims? What do you mean that you will attack what does not satisfy? I only attack what satisfies me. Attack what's going to get me what I want. But that's because we have it backwards. When we begin to understand that we will continue to attack the thing that does not satisfy it, it will never bring us peace. And thus, it keeps us from seeing what we have made up. Because if we take sides and we look at what's happening out there, as in it's out there, and I got to pick a side so that the world can see, who I'm supporting, especially Facebook, they need to see that I'm all for this side versus that side. You're giving your energy to division being real. When we go beyond what the world is used to the I call for, or I desire, or I pray for, that all beings in this situation find God within, find the truth of their magnificence, find the truth of their worth, then we would not be able to be used as pawns in a game that is a game of manipulation, played at a very sophisticated level by people who understand the way the mind works, but do not understand the way of the heart. You see, humanity can only descend to these lowest levels of depravity because we do not understand the heart. Meaning our mind can be conditioned into fear and into divisiveness, into thinking that creating an idol outside of us to protect us is somehow good, because we don't understand that our heart would never allow that. Our heart wants for us what we want, once for all what we want for us. That's why Jesus says, do unto others as you'd like them do unto you. But when we are trained into going to war, into hating others, we are doing to them what we don't want done to us. So we are giving energy to an illusion, to something made up, instead of standing for, no, we want peace for all beings. And when all parents, when all children, be they Israeli children or Palestinian children, are all seen as valuable life, and we stand for that sanctity, then we come together and say no more to the false idols that we have put in positions of authority that allow things like this to happen. Because if you really truly understood the amazing power of Israel, the military, the might that that country has, you would see that it is absolutely crazy that anybody could have gotten into their space, into their borders, unchecked, that anything like that could happen randomly. So the mind has to stop being used to attack, to be righteous, and to begin to open up and go, how can this be? Well, not going to go down the realm of politics here, but I'll just say only one thing. War makes people rich. Who gets rich from situations like this? If you don't stop to look at that, then you're not moving up to the higher perspective of awareness to see how something like this could even be possible. If you're caught up in the emotional reactions, you're operating down here in the realms of fear and anger and revenge and attack. To move into, wait a second, let me see the pieces of the puzzle. Clearly, in the human world, there is a big piece of the puzzle called money. Who is benefiting? Who makes money from this? And as we begin to look into those things, you begin to see where the idols are. The people that we've given power to thought that they were protecting us. But one of the things that the Course in Miracles helped me see is that I had to deal with the total, complete, and it was painful observing that my ego had been conditioned to give my power away, and I unwittingly, I wasn't aware of, gave power to people who were actually using me, who were literally taking advantage of my ignorance. I was not aware of all the things that I funded because I was so busy trying to become, to do, to have, and to acquire, and to do the things that I had been conditioned to do and do my part, pay my taxes and send them off somewhere to people that I had no idea. So we've got to become self-aware. Here, the truth behind illusions is that I am a powerful being. And if I want war to stop, I must stop feeding the war emotionally, mentally, financially, physically. I must begin to little by little pull myself out of those things that create, that support the outer division until I come and become fully united within. So in the last week that we talked about, or the previous segment, which was episode 121, you can go to my YouTube channel, Laina Orlando. There's an entire playlist called the Ascension with A Course in Miracles, and all of these are listed in order, except for one episode, because YouTube took it down. Because when I did that episode a couple of years ago, well, you know, the powers that be that were censoring didn't like the things that I was saying because they were inconvenient truths. But anyways, pretty much all the other episodes are there. So let me read something from last time. You attack but false ideas and never truthful ones. We attack the idea of separation. We attack the other side that hurt my side. That is not true. It's not true. Both sides deep within want the same thing. So this is one of the wonderful, most powerful teachings that Jesus gave us. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they're doing. When we stop taking a side and we divided side and we come inside and say we want peace for all beings, what is allowing this to happen? Then we have to begin to look at all of the ways it is possible. But we've got to pull ourselves out of the emotional reaction, ascend to higher levels in the scale of emotion, to understand the process, that there's an entire process for ascension. You've got to understand where are you so that you know if you're feeding the ego or if you're feeding your alignment with God. So the paragraph number 2 says, the wearying, dissatisfying gods you made are blown up children's toys. I'm going to read a little bit more and then put this together. A child is frightened when a wooden head springs up as a closed box is opened suddenly, or when a soft and silent woolly bear begins to squeak as he takes hold of it. This is because Jesus understands that we are in a state, humanity are in a state of contraction, meaning we're all operating from a very immature, childlike, childish place. Not childlike as in our innocent child that is playful. This is our childish side that is contracted, because when we are children and we experience, because that's part of the game in the old 3D world, the world that's the illusion that is ending is that you came to planet Earth, you had unconscious parents, they conditioned you at whatever level of trauma they operated from, alcoholism, child abuse, drug abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, whatever they experience, they pass on to their children. The sins of the fathers are passed on to the children. We didn't know that we were doing that, but we knew that we were coming to a world from a conscious place, from a non-physical place, to a world that did that to bring our light, to illuminate a path so we would shift, become the conscious parents to ourselves first, then consciously parent, then consciously grandparent, and then we create in the new beginning a world where children come into safe spaces because they come into healed families. But we're not there yet. We're on a bridge to create that. So to get out of the old, we must bring the darkness to the light. We must see all the things that weren't working so that we can be encouraged to do what works. A little child, when a Jack in the Box pops up, it scares the kid. Of course it scares them because they're not expecting it. Or a toy all of a sudden squeaks and they weren't expecting it. It's frightening. So a war erupts and we think, oh no, everything should be okay. It scares that child inside of us that is expecting mom and dad to keep things safe in a world where mom and dad cannot keep things safe. Mom and dad being the representation of governments, of bosses, of idols that we have placed with authority outside of us. They should keep us safe and then we could be okay. So every single time there is a big event that happens, whether it's in Israel or in Maui or wherever it happens to be in the world, we react like a wounded, immature child, afraid. That's because emotionally and mentally, we are totally and completely unaware of what has happened to us until we start the journey of awakening. So here it tells us, of course, that scares us. The rules he made for boxes and for bears have failed him and have broken his control of what surrounds him. So this is such a beautiful analogy. It's so perfect for what's happening in the world today. We have been conditioned to believe, like this little child has created rules, that box shouldn't open, that bear shouldn't squeak. If I don't want it to squeak, it shouldn't squeak. If I don't believe that there's anything in that box, it shouldn't jump out at me. So if I have paid my taxes and the government's supposed to keep me safe, there shouldn't be anything bad happening out there. And then all of a sudden, these things pop out. Oh my, this war pops out, and we send so much money for military might and all these things that are supposed to protect us. And what, I got fired? I spent so much effort working my ass off for this boss, for this company for 10, 15, 20 years. And now they fire me or they furlough me or whatever they do, retire me early or whatever. We, because we are operating at such a small sense of only taking care of my little world, are not aware that in the outer world, there are beings who operate at very low levels of consciousness. They might know how the mind works. They might understand psychology, and they use it against those who don't understand psychology in order to maintain the illusion of separation. This is why we need to understand the truth behind illusion. There cannot be war if it wasn't for the fact that we unwittingly have participated in allowing things to happen outside of us that we thought, I'm just a little person over here. I can't do anything about that. Because until we find our voice and we come together for one purpose only. Look at this country, the United States of America, divided politically. When all of us want the same thing, why do we allow ourselves to be divided politically? Because we want somebody out there to take care of us. And we're going to pick that person and we're going to support that person. And if that person tells us to attack that person, we're going to attack that person. Do you see how immature that is? So if I, like this little child, want mommy and daddy to protect me and don't let anything jump out that scares me, then I'm not taking responsibility for what I can do with my own emotions to not be reactive, to not be manipulated. So let me keep going. Here it says in sentence 4, I'm talking about the little child, and he is afraid because he thought the rules protected him. Now must he learn the boxes and the bears did not deceive him, broke no rules, nor mean his world is made chaotic and unsafe. He was mistaken. He misunderstood what made him safe and thought that it had left. What this means is that we've got to realize the government didn't break the rules. They are part of an illusion that I gave power to keep me safe. I'm still safe in the mind of God. Who I am is eternal. No souls, and this could be difficult for some people to hear, but no souls were hurt in what happened, in what happens anywhere in the world, specifically what has happened in the Middle East. No souls have been hurt. Every soul is totally, completely in the truth of what we are, pure, non-physical energy, always and forevermore connected to God, always one with God. We are waking up to that is the truth. Bodies have been affected. Absolutely, bodies have been hurt and have been defiled and have been subjected to unbelievable trauma and unbelievable, unspeakable of things. Yes, the bodies were subjected to that because we looked to a bear, a box, a government, some authority to keep us safe, and they did not. So now we are scared. That makes us stay immature. If we are scared that thing didn't protect us, we must come inside, find that power within. Because until humanity stops relying on external forces to protect us, we are not going to find inner peace. We're not going to find world peace. World peace happens when humans don't play games that are the manipulation of those who are in positions of authority. When you give authority to somebody who worships money over love, worships power over peace, do not pretend that you're going to be kept safe. Because if you pretend that they will take care of you when they're worshiping their own idols and not you, you might be worshiping them and think that they'll keep you safe, but they're worshiping money or worshiping power. It is an absolute selfish game that the ego plays. And humanity, as we are seeing, as a matter of fact, when you read A Course in Miracles, you can see it speaks to current events in a way that I had never seen before anywhere, because it talks about the way the ego operates. And the only way war can happen is when we give our power to someone else to keep the peace. And if they worship money, they're not going to keep the peace for very long, because they need to have the conflict, because that's how they generate the money that facilitates the conflict. Look at Ukraine. How many billions of dollars has America and other parts of the world sent to Ukraine? Feeding a war. If all that money went to feed humanity, to feed the bellies of all beings, so that we could really, truly be in a place of understanding that what I do for you, I do for me. If I want to be fed, mind, body, spirit, and I feed your body, if you understand psychology, you understand I'm going to have to get a chart made of that. Maslow gave us a beautiful, I don't remember if I think he calls it the pyramid. I forgive my names, but basically it's something that is the other way around. And it shows that you have to feel physically safe before you can move into understanding spirituality. Those things happen after you are safe here physically. If we had every being on the planet, took all those billions of dollars and fed everybody so that everybody is safe, you know what would happen? Is we would then, from that place of knowing we are fed, knowing that we have a place to live, knowing that the basics are met, then we would connect with one another, talk with each other, let go of the boundaries, educate our minds into understanding our similarities instead of our differences. We would come together more and more. The days for that is the new beginning that humanity is on right now. Course in Miracles is helping us understand that we have two thought systems, one that is selfishly oriented, one that is all about the oneness, the wholeness, the connection, the unity. One thought system is about the ego, divisiveness, fear, attack, having somebody else keep us safe, creating idols that have their own idols that they worship, so that we can little by little practice the one solution that is necessary, and that is to know the one authority. The one authority is a loving God. In my Monday night class, we've been talking about this. We have to first cultivate a relationship with God. We have to heal our minds about our understanding about God, because it was all made up. It was made up, specifically designed within the realm of the spiritual world, the religious world, more specifically, to keep people from knowing the power that we have within. You see, if you knew you had the power of God within you, you wouldn't bow down to the church and give them 10% and participate in some of the shenanigans that the churches participate at around the world when they're operating in selfishness and greed. But when we're all operating in selflessness, when we are coming from a place within that knows our oneness, we don't hurt each other. Hurt people hurt others. Happy, healed people are just living their lives, extending the love and the light that they are, because that is what we came to do. This transmission is all about, to me, as I feel the frequency moving through me, is really to bring a level of compassion to all parties in all situations, specifically in the Middle East. If you want to see things change sooner rather than later, don't let your mind be convinced that you should attack somebody else and see yourself as a victim. Don't do that. Instead, see everybody as pawns in a game that we want to get to the root of. We need to bring the darkness to the light. We need to understand, how can this really happen? And it's not happening just because two sides hate each other. There is more that is nefarious that the ego has done. When you read A Course in Miracles, you really see that the ego is evilness itself. How do these things happen? Because we don't know God is inside of us. And when we give our power to others to protect us, like a little child, that box is going to open up and it's going to scare us. Well, the box has opened up in Israel and it's scaring us, in Israel, Palestine, and the Middle East. And it's going to continue to open up around the world, because the same deception is playing out around the globe, because the globe is filled with those who worship themselves, who worship because they listen to the voice of the ego, and they have made power and money their master, not God, which is about sharing and caring and compassion and consideration and collaboration. That is where we're headed to. Until we get there, don't listen to idols outside of yourself telling you how to think and what to believe and how to emotionally react. Come inside, connect with God and ask God, what would you have me do? And you will see that all sides deep down inside want the same thing. But the minds have been conditioned into getting it in different ways, sometimes horrendous, hurtful, just terrible ways in the world of in human terminology. But no souls have been hurt through this process. And I see all of those souls as souls who have participated in being examples that help more people see enough with the ways of the eagle and volunteered their human incarnation to be teachers of what we no longer want. This is the old ways, so that they can incarnate into a new world that we must create by choosing to be part of the new beginning. If you enjoyed this episode, if you want to make a comment, please unmute yourself, or just want to share whatever you want to share. Everything that you share is perfectly okay. And if you don't have time or can't, or for whatever reason are not able to, thank you for being here, lending your presence, your energy, because I create these because you guys come watch them. Otherwise, I wouldn't do these things. Anyways, if you want to hear more of these teachings, these transmissions that come through me on Wednesdays at noon Eastern time, pretty much every week, they're all on my YouTube channel. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you, Laina.
Oh, you're so welcome, sweetie.
I'll make a comment. I finally came off of mute because I was waiting on a service person to come and we were a little noisy. Yeah, so as I've been watching, and I'm trying not to watch a lot of footage about the war on Israel, because I don't want to get sucked into that.
Yeah.
You know, all I felt is just total compassion.
Oh.
I'm going to say it. I felt compassion for Hamas. I have felt compassion for Israel, like everybody. And, you know, as an American, you know, I know I'm supposed to take a side, and I don't feel like doing that. And so this class was really helpful for me to stand in that. I try to avoid political conversation just in general, but it's just helping me to know that it doesn't make me un-American to have empathy for people that most of our country thinks are terrorists. You know, they've been labeled that. And I'm just seeing past the label, and I spent all morning in prayer for that area of the country, and also last night. And so
thank you, thank you, thank you. You know, it takes a lot of courage. Courage is right up there. Before we can cross the line into the higher realms of consciousness, we have to have the courage to no longer toe the line of what we've been taught from the external world and come inside. And God sees everything as love or a call for love.
right.
That's it. Either we remember to be loving towards one another, which means there wouldn't be any war, or we forgot that we're still operating from a childish conditioning that somebody else should take care of us, and we give our power away, and we behave like, and then we react like scared little children. Fix this, and what do I do to stay safe? But when we can extend compassion to others, sweetie, that's a high level of consciousness. And I thank you, because I know it took courage to get to that place, to not care what, you know, Americans think. And at some point we need to even not be Americans. We need to just be souls that are here extending love and light, and all beings on the planet should experience the life, the liberty, and the happiness that is really, truly our God-given right. Oh, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. I'm trying to work from home now on Wednesdays. I've got sort of a new schedule that I'm, you know, learning what works best. And I had to stay home today for this repair guy. And then I thought, you know what? I get to get on Laina's class, and I'm going to start staying home every Wednesday. Well, because it was so easy, and it's a slow day at the yoga studio, so it worked out perfectly.
Oh, thank you so much, sweetie. I'm so grateful that you're here. And to the rest of you, thank you for being here. Love you all, and keep taking your light and shining it everywhere. The world needs it more than ever today. Thank you. Love you all.
Bye. Love you.
Bye-bye.